Today, there are 2 million descendants of French-Canadian immigrants living in New England. These are our stories. Welcome to the French-Canadian Legacy Podcast.
Venez tous jeunes filles et garçons, je vais vous raconter l'histoire de notre immigration ici au USA, de grands aventuriers de pays étrangers.
This is the French-Canadian Legacy Podcast. I'm Mike Campbell. Melody has the week off this week, so there won't be a new segment. But next week, we are lucky to have Dr. Kathleen Stein-Smith as our guest. Dr. Stein-Smith is a dedicated foreign language educator and advocate for the role of foreign languages in the United States. While French is her primary foreign language, she believes that a serious conversation about foreign language in the U.S. will benefit all languages and will highlight the historical, cultural, demographic, and economic value and importance of language and culture. And it is this belief that has driven her research, writing, speaking, and engagements. Jessie and Kathleen will talk about books she's written, some groups she started, and of course, the importance of foreign language in our schools. We hope you'll join us next week.
All right, cool. Do you mind if I ask you a bonus question?
Sure.
Because you moved to Quebec, you got to experiment with some Quebecois cuisine. What was your initial impression of cire or cire terroir? It's like, for those who don't know, it's kind of like a maple syrup kind of that you pour on some ice and you get a popsicle stick and you roll it up and you eat it. I'm curious what your first experience with that was like.
My first experience with Quebecois cuisine was actually on my campus in my student residence hall. In my dorm, it was a kitchen, and anybody who wanted to could have their own little refrigerator, and there were stoves, and people could make their breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and therefore it saved money. And I remember one day sitting at lunch in the dorm eating my peanut butter sandwich. And one of the French Canadian girls, a girl from La Malbaie, lovely young woman, sat down at the table and she said, "Why are you doing this to yourself? What is that?" And I just looked at her, peanut butter sandwich in my mouth, and just looked at her, and I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "No, but you really put that down. It's not good for you." And no offense to peanut butter sandwiches, but I love peanut butter. But and she took me over to the stove and she showed me she had a nice little steak in the pan, and she had a salad, and she was making herself a very nice lunch. And she showed me, said, "So you do it like this." And she brought it over and she said, "See, in the time it took you to make the peanut butter sandwich, you could have a lunch like this every day." So that was my first introduction to Quebecois cooking, and how you really, you deserve, as she put it, you deserve to sit down and have a nice lunch and eat good food. You treat yourself that way. And that really does characterize the Quebecois relationship with food. My first relation with, for example, the maple syrup, the sirop d'érable, was certainly doing the tourist thing, doing the maple sugaring during the early spring. Sure. And where maple syrup is everywhere. And I love maple syrup. I can eat nothing else on my pancakes and waffles. But it has to be from Quebec. Nice. But the tirage d'érable, all right, the basically taffy kind of.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a taffy experience with maple syrup. That's a big hit every year at Carnival. They love to bring that out. The kids love it, and everybody loves it. Got to watch your teeth with that, but it's great. And they also have like these wonderful things like there's a dessert, and I forget now what it's called, but it's pain de ménage with some cream, a big thick slice of homemade bread, with basically heavy cream and maple syrup, not maple syrup, but like maple sugar shavings on it.
That sounds amazing.
Famous tarte au sucre, the sugar pie.
Of course.
And but there were all of these great things they're simple, they're natural, they're relatively unadorned, And they do really come from, I think, that Quebec, like respect of the person, the respect of your life, that eating properly, eating good food is really part of that.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much. This is cool. I love that answer. That's very, very fun. Well, I appreciate the time very, very much, Kathy. This is cool. This is a good time. It's a good day.
Thank you so much, Jesse, for the opportunity. Always great to see you and to talk to you.
Now our fathers look at us and sigh with despair, to think that everything they love we simply do not share. But the spirit never dies, our culture will survive. Each of us must choose how much to keep alive. Each of us must choose how much to keep alive.
Special thanks to Josie Vachon for providing the music. You can find more about her at josievachon.com. This podcast was produced and edited by Mike Campbell. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at fclpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at FCL Podcast for more information about the topics discussed. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to this episode.